what do you do really well, and then do that and do that and do that and do that. When you have strong vision, other people see that.
Real estate agents, we're back, and we are here with part 2 of our interview with the Keith Riddle. Keith is a mentor of mine. He is one of the people that was absolutely pivotal early on in my career with me learning how to think big, me learning how to lead inside of this industry, and he has just been a dear friend ever since. Part 1 was phenomenal, and we had the opportunity just to hear from Keith, and we have more. Where should somebody go if they want more from us?
rmgagentpodcast.com. Check out our action guides. Check out all the webinars and things that we've done. Also, you can check out anywhere you listen to podcasts to see the library at this point of stuff. We're up to like almost 30 episodes. We've already got a whole bunch more filmed. So we just continue to want to impact, empower, and encourage you with all things that you do and within your real estate career. And, you know, Keith, you say that he mentored you. Like, I think there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of people within the industry that have that. Like Keith is somebody that lives that impact, empower, encourages with anybody that knows him.
Absolutely. So without further ado, here is part 2 with our good friend, Keith Riddle. If you step back, you realize nothing's guaranteed, nothing's promised. What I can do is I can take risk, I can put fear in the corner, and I can take action.
Yeah.
Right? Now everything else, anything that's out of my control, it is.
Yeah.
Right, that's that.
Yeah, and I don't know the secret to teaching that as much as I can tell you about it, and I can tell people they need to learn it.
Yeah.
Right? But I don't know that I can teach it all. I can teach it to some. I'm trying to teach it, my kids, and I've mentored and taught agents over the years. But what I have known is, like I said, some of the things that made me successful are not some of the things that have been my ceiling. And one of the things that's been my ceiling is my coaching or teaching or mentorship style is effective 25 to 30% of the time with people, right? Yeah. It probably doesn't land or resonate with 75, or I can't necessarily teach a lot of the other people because I'm going to teach it a certain way. I'm going to teach you the way I know how to do it.
Yeah.
And if you have a relatively similar demeanor or outlook, or you can adapt that, it will probably stick.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I don't know what to tell you. Like that. But it's still an important lesson. You should still learn it.
Yes, yeah.
I just don't know how to teach it to you, right?
It's so frustrating because I love teaching, and I love models, and I love all of those things. And it frustrates the heck out of me when I know something that's really, really important. I don't actually know how I know it, and I can't help you with it. Like, that drives me crazy.
Yeah, and I would say you're a really good coach, right? Like, I feel like that's one of the things that it's a strength of yours, right? And you've definitely coached a ton of people, and I think that your mentorship style and your coaching style are vastly different than probably mine. And I would say that you're vastly superior at it, right? As far as effectiveness across the board. And again, it's just knowing your strengths, right? Like, and I go back to sports analogies a lot because I played sports growing up, but I think they're also just easy analogies to pick where people go, oh yeah, that makes sense or whatever. But I think, you look at a team and it's like, that's why there's positions, right? Right. Not everybody's the point guard, right? Totally. Doesn't make sense, right? So you have to have a big, you have to have a point guard, so knowing your strengths in business and success is also paramount to creating good partnerships, to creating good relationships, to staying in your lane, to not getting into things that you shouldn't get into, or to going and find the next opportunity that's similar to the last two that you knocked out of the park.
Yeah.
And so even in the business, like, I was a much better buyer's agent than I was a listing agent. I wouldn't say I was a bad listing agent by stats, but if you were to talk to me about like where I thought I was really good, I was much better on the buy side.
Yeah.
I also was much better on the investment side than working with first-time home buyers. So even inside the niche of being on the buy side, I knew my buy side niche was investments, right?
Yeah.
So it was just honing in on like, could I not do these other things? No, like I could still work with a seller and I could still work with a first-time home buyer, but I knew that my strengths were going to far exceed. To go out and work with 10 investors were going to serve me a lot better than to hold a first-time home buyers class and to get 10 first-time buyers. Yeah. Right.
It totally makes sense. And it's maybe going back all the way back to the beginning of the conversation. You've done all of these things, right? And the temptation of real estate being such a big ocean to play in is that you can get tempted to go play in areas that you are not well suited for?
Yeah, and you alluded to this early because I was like, well, I've done this and this and this. And you're like, somebody out there is listening to you right now, shut up. You didn't say shut up, but you said it kindly. You're like, whoever's listening to him, don't do that. Because it was sequential growth, right? It wasn't all at once, right? I've done this over 20 years.
Yeah.
So I stayed in my lane of sales for the first 5 to 7 years, as my 95% heartbeat, right? And I was moonlighting a few investments on the side and then kicked them up between 7 and 15 years. And, so that to say is that I think when you go back to somebody's strengths and knowing where they live and all of this, that is really mastering different aspects of the business before you move on to more.
Yeah.
And another analogy I'll make is like, I was a wrestler growing up, and in wrestling, like I was probably, I would say on the better end. I had a very successful high school wrestling career, but I had 4 moves, dude. I had like 4 moves. I had like a low single. I had like an arm bar, but it was one of those things where I had a coach initially, and he was like, "Listen, Keith, you run that like nobody." He's like, "That's your move," And to realize what a high level of success I could have and be like, I'm going up against an opponent in a citywide district tournament that I won that knows my moves. He knows I got a low single. He knows I go low to the right every time. I'm still going to do it because I don't know how to do anything else. Or if I do, I don't know how to do it very well, but I'm not going to try it now. I'm not trying it in the city championship to do this low double. Yeah, I'm not. It would just do it. So now I got to set it up. You know what's coming. I know I'm going to do it. I'm still going to do it, but now I got to set you up for it. And it's one of those things. It's like, can you do it when it's even really, really hard or where the chips are stacked against you? And I think that when you look at your real estate that way, it's the same thing. It's like, what do you do really well? And then do that and do that and do that and do that so that you know that no matter what crash comes or where the market goes, like you always have that move. You always have that. The ability to prospect or the ability to lead gen or a tight-knit database that loves you and cares you and knows about you or internet lead generation or, like short sale. I mean, there's so many, like I said, but learn and then master those things instead of running out. Because I would say right now, 20-year real estate career, I know a lot of the moves per the textbook. I still run the same 5 moves.
Yeah. I have a script book that has like 250 scripts in it. I use 6 of them.
Yeah.
and usually it's 3. It's like,
Yeah. And they know they're coming, right?
Yeah, that's just what's going
to
My
agents, I'm like, how did that work? And they're like, shut up.
Did you try trying?
Did you try trying? Maybe you should figure that out.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that also is a nuance, I think is what the right word I'm looking for is like when you start talking to me or we're rapping back and forth or anytime people are asking me there's so many nuances to success that are just, it's not any different than anybody else telling you. It's just the little way that you do it, right? It's the little nuance. It's the little asterisk that you put on it. It's your style, but you still got to do those things.
Right.
You can put your own style or flair on it, but you still got to do it.
Right.
If you're not willing to make your contacts, if you're not really willing to do all these fundamentals, control your expenses, run a budget, have a business plan, like there are more times than not when agents come and tell me or talk to me about, hey, I'm not where I want to be and I want to get from point A to point B, what should I be doing? I can go back to the basic fundamentals of like, do you have a business plan? Show me your daily or weekly activity. Do you have a time block schedule? And from those 3 things, I can tell you typically why you're not where you want to be.
Yeah.
Or I can tell you the things that are on there that you're just not doing.
Right.
Oh yeah, you time blocked it.
Did you do it?
There's no way you could do that 5 hours a week and not take one listing. There's no way. So you're either lying, you're not doing it, or it doesn't exist. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs, real estate agents specifically, and a variety of others. Trust me, I've dealt with it, but they have a high level of success or that running on E, that entrepreneurial, that easy spirit.
Right. That,
they're 5 years in business, 10 years in business. They've never made a business plan.
Right.
And they never had to.
Right.
And they didn't not have success. So if I don't have to make a business plan and I can have success and I can have success year after year after year after year, I'm also telling myself a story that the business plan is unnecessary.
Right.
It's reaffirming poor behavior, and not that the behavior is poor because it's not getting me where I want to go, but at some point when you're at A and you want to go to B now and you can't get there, it's because you didn't do a fundamental aspect of something that could help you get there.
Yeah.
But now you're like a baby agent. right? Now you got 8 years of experience as an agent, but you got 2 days of experience of developing a business plan and figuring out what that looks like and how it works, or controlling costs or margin, Yeah. And so again, 8 years later, if you'd have done it all 8 years, then it's like, hey, now I just got to shift. I got to do it bigger. I got to do it different.
Yep.
But I know how to do that thing. Mm-hmm. And so many times we're hamstringed by cheating our way through having success and not giving ourselves fundamentals that we need along the way that will come around and bite you pretty hard.
It really will, yeah.
And one of the big things I can tell you is expense control, cost control. That for me, I mean, I tend to be a fun-loving guy. I like to have fun, but I also believe in people. And so paying people a little bit more from the get-go than I should have, or not firing somebody as fast as I should have, or hiring more people than I should have, or just, and that's just staff or payroll or whatever, but like leads, buying more leads than were necessary, even leads that weren't getting worked, and then finding another cheap lead scenario and buying more, or, kind of like not controlling the expenses. And that's usually, like I said, all fine as long as the income's there. But when a shift happens, you're in a tough spot, right?
Right.
And so I think that expense control for most small team owners, small brokerage owners, even individual agents, running a budget, like a personal budget. How much are you spending a week on this or that? I mean, those little things for me, I didn't learn early. Yeah. And then I had to learn them the hard way later, through failure, but then also,
for sure.
Oh crap, like you want me to actually do this exercise everyone's telling me I should, like every business coach I ever had told me I should be doing this, and I haven't done it, and now I'm at a point where like I have to do it, and I'm like a fish out of water.
Oh yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. What I'm hearing is it speaks of vision, right? Like if I'm not thinking down the road a little bit, if I have some sort of temporary success or temporary accomplishment and it satiates me right now, then I have this temptation not to think about tomorrow and not to think that. Same thing with our health. Right? Yeah. It's like, I'm going to eat the cheeseburger now because I'm not thinking about tomorrow, and I'm definitely not thinking about 50 years from now.
Yeah.
Right? That shows up in our lives, shows up in our parenting, shows up in our businesses. And like the wise person, which I haven't always been, the wise person is listening to trusted advisors, right?
Yeah.
And they're doing things that they don't even see yet the importance of them.
And they're also lending themselves to someone else's advice, whether it may make sense at the time for them or not.
Yeah.
I think that's another real, like, can you be a student too?
Yeah.
Are you coachable?
Yeah.
Because the first time I ever made a business plan or whatever, I was like, what am I doing? This is, I don't need to do this. I should be doing something else. But again, honing in that craft is paramount. But I think when you really look at agents' career paths, what are the big holdbacks? And I look at agents differently than probably most agents look at themselves, because I look at like a 30,000-foot view. I've hired a lot of agents. At one point in time, I think I had 140 agents in my office. And so it gives you a 30,000-foot view of where does success live and where does failure live.
Yeah.
And so you start to see all these things, and it's not just personally. It's not like, hey, I'm winning or failing because of these things, but I'm actually watching 100 people do these things, and who's winning and who's losing. And it comes down to agents typically fail out of the business very quickly because they're just not willing to do what they need to do, or this and that. Or they typically will start to have a level of success that at some point in time, they will just kind of say, good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough. Man, I can clip 85 to 105 grand a year, kind of doing whatever I want, not having a plan, doing whatever. It might hurt a little bit when the market squeezes me and I got to learn to live on 65 grand, but I'll figure it out, or I'll find a part-time job to supplement. And it's just one of those things where like that vision that you're talking about for me has always been, it's been another, I would say, kind of super strength of mine or whatever, was not necessarily having vision of like, hey, my actions today are leading to these things tomorrow, but like just having a bigger vision for my tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I, very young, wanted to own a lot of doors, or I wanted to like develop an apartment, or I wanted to do whatever. And so my daily activity wasn't just driven by selling the next house to make a certain amount of income that year.
Yeah.
It was like, no, how am I going to get to this place where I know I can't get there for another 5 years, or I know I can't get there for another 10 years. And that keeps you out of the bar early, or that keeps you coming into the office on a Saturday when maybe no one else is around, right? That kept me focused because I had bigger vision. I had bigger goals for my life and where I wanted it to go. And even though I was really cloudy about what that looked like, and I didn't even know how to get there,
right,
that vision kept me accountable to my daily tasks that I should have been doing the whole time. more so than just the result I was going to get from doing those.
Yeah.
Does that make sense at all?
It totally makes sense, and it makes me think of a whole other like line of questioning about like how does somebody develop that, and like that's a rabbit trail, but it's so important because
Mind map is the first thing I would say, by the way.
No, it's great, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that's one of the biggest exercises from one of the first mentors I ever had was he sat me down and he said, Keith, take a blank piece of paper out and just mind map it out, draw it out, right? This was before technology and stuff existed enough that it was just a piece of paper. And I was like, here's me.
Yeah.
Right? And someday I want to have family and kids, and someday I want to own some doors. And I just kind of like said, hey, what do I want my life to look like? Like if I'm going to pick my head up and look back and be proud, or look back and feel accomplished, or just even have retirement or whatever it was. And at the time I wasn't even thinking retirement. It was just like, what if I could build the perfect life?
Yeah.
What would I want it to look like? And I remember I was like flipping one of my, first 5 or 6 houses, and I was flipping it with a buddy of mine, Paul,
Yeah.
and we've been business partners forever, and he's great. But I remember we were in a flip one time, and we were talking, and we both came up with like our ideal. We're like, dude, how cool would it be, man, if we could just like get up, bang some weights at the gym, like go get some breakfast, have a protein shake, then just like drive to a flip, like work, like make money, like.
Yeah.
And then we made that like a reality at some point in our life.
Yeah.
Like we would literally like wake up in the morning, go to the gym, and it's like one of those things where it's like we were just young kids, but what we wanted was kind of autonomy. Like, right, we like in a really kind of like immature, infantile way, we wanted like our like high school life as like adults. Like, we're like, dude, we could have like recess, right, long lunches, weights, and then just do the other stuff in between.
Yeah.
And then like go home at night and like drink some beer and watch some TV or something. And it was like. Yeah, you can totally do that. You can totally do that. But it was, and we totally made it happen. And then of course that vision got bigger and we wanted more, and we didn't just want those things in our life. And you realize the kind of the shallowness of some of your younger year dreams or goals. But at the same time, it was at an early age we had that, right? We were thinking ahead and going like, hey man, he was flying airplanes at the time and working for the government. I'm banging 70 hours a week in real estate. And it's like, we didn't have autonomy.
Right.
We were grinding. We were running. So like for us, like, man, that would be so cool, dude, if we just had like our schedule lined out and we could just like spit the things we like in between. And we were talking before this started, and it's like, yeah, that's where I'm at now. Like my calendar is primarily 85% of what Keith wants to do when Keith wants to do it, and it's 15% of the stuff And that was 110% not what Keith wanted to be doing. When Keith wanted to be doing it 20 years ago.
The way you said it, I think is a pivotal thing, right? So it has been popular for years to do a vision board, right? Something like that. And it's like, here's the yacht, and it's a stuff board. It's what it is. But the way you said it was, I want to build a life, and that's unbelievably different than I want to have stuff, because there's stuff that fits into a great life without a doubt. But building a great life as a vision is so much more satisfying. And when you're young, you may not even know that. But for you looking back, for somebody listening who's maybe 25 or 30 or even 35, it's
even 40, important. Man. I'm the same way. I'm still working. I do an annual mind map and an annual business plan every year, right? And in addition to that, I think that it's a practice like any other practice that gets stronger with time. And when you have strong vision, other people see that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people who got on my boat because they saw that. They didn't necessarily even align with it or agree with it. They're like, hey, that's not my vision. But here's a dude with conviction and vision who's doing and succeeding, and we can all see it. Everyone can see it. Everyone can see this guy getting up, working towards this thing he wants, and he's doing it. It's like, hey man, I don't want that, but I want this. And I want to be next to a dude who's doing what I want to be doing, is working every day towards our visions, even if our visions are different visions.
Yeah.
And so I think that's definitely something that warrants more thought and energy and time than a lot of agents or entrepreneurs give it, because it feels like a waste of time. If we sit down on a Tuesday and time block 3 hours to like cast our vision,
right.
First of all, don't tell anybody that. Because if they see you sitting in an office with a whiteboard by yourself and you're like, I'm just in here casting my vision.
You got a beautiful mind.
Right. But you should. I don't care. Tell them. Yeah. I don't care. I'd tell them.
I had an office one time, like in my younger years. I finally got an office because I was in a cubicle in the hallway for a sadistic joke, which is all I deserved. But I got a closet instead. So I had a door, and I couldn't really fit my desk in there. but I had one whole huge wall. So I went to Home Depot and bought 2 4x8 sheets of melamine.
Yeah. The top sheet of ply and then flipped it.
And it would just went and, use it as a whiteboard and just went it was like some psycho was in this closet. But that's where I started my business.
Yeah. No, it works, and it works well. And stepping back to what you said initially, though, was people chase a lot of stuff. And that's another thing that I try to, again, if I'm talking to my kids, it's like the think without fear thing, it's the figure thing out, but also like stuff is just stuff. Yeah. And I will, hands up, man, I chase stuff. Man, I was 20-something years old driving a 3 Series black BMW coupe, dude, with a sunroof down half the day, even when it was like fall or winter, right? Like, I had that stuff. But it was, as you grow and as you mature, like what you realize was this stuff isn't fulfillment.
Right.
And then also, like, stuff's not bad either. Like, I don't expect people to all, drive a 1986 Chevy Cavalier or something, but that was my high school car.
This thing, I'm like,
for a while.
this is kind of cool stuff, buddy.
That was very specific, Keith. No, I think the aha is I've chased stuff. The stuff isn't the secret sauce, but on top of it, you a lot of times chase things that are stuff that you don't even want.
Man.
And there's nothing more disappointing than getting something and realizing like, how did I even get? I didn't want that. How did I get this? Right. And then on top of it, chasing stuff and getting stuff and having that stuff not be what you thought it was going to be.
Right.
Right. Sometimes you get the stuff you wanted and it's great. Sometimes you get the stuff you wanted and it's not even what you thought it would be.
Right.
And then sometimes you get stuff where you're like, I didn't even want this. I got, and all of those little things are life lessons, but like looking back, man, I just wasted a lot of time chasing stuff. And not that was bad, but when that became the focus, it was bad.
Yeah. I love it.
And I think if you, and I think I've done it fairly well, but I think if you continue to chase the overall vision, that it's easier to, again, not get so derailed or not go through these highs and low swings. And the highs and low swings that I'm talking about, or the derail I'm talking about, I think is, for me, I see a lot of anxiety, depression, which plays into a lot of people's fear and this and that of, they're not happy, right? Mm-hmm. Even a lot of, you really want to boil it down to the silver bullet you're looking for. And I think this is the hard part with success is there's a huge chance you're not going to be successful, right? Then there's a huge chance that success is going to be way harder at a higher price than you wanted to pay to get it, right? And I think then there's the chance that you can get success and it's going to feel empty and meaningless because it's not really what you wanted, right?
Right.
So you're looking to be successful, which is hard. You're looking to be successful in the odds of a lot of adversity, chasing something that even if you get it may or may not be what you want, but you have to have enough vision to know that it's going to be close enough that you can shift or deviate. And so, we're all looking for like this success. I want to be completely happy, have no problems, have all this success and all the things I want and fulfilled at the end of it, right? And have no guilt and have no like anxiety or depression about it, right? So it's hard, right, to hit all of those tickers. And I think, again, maybe a lot of this conversation is just awareness is how I would like, if you're watching this today or if you're thinking about this, it's just like, where are you at? And where is your awareness around where you're at? Are you the person who's not having success? Are you the person who's having success, but it's just not feeling fulfilling? Are you the person who has a little bit of success, but you're realizing how big the mountain is in front of you that you still need to climb? So are you feeling resigned? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling like kind of tapping into like, where are you at? And then saying, okay, this is all normal. Yeah. Keith said it was normal, so it's normal.
Right.
And now what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
What sort of changing or shifting do I need to do so that I can not have the feeling or the emotion around what's not going right?
Yeah.
And realign to what is.
I love that. We could talk about this for days. It's probably a good place to land the plane is stepping back and asking yourself the question, am I aware, right?
Yeah.
Of all of these things, right?
There was a book I read one time, and I'm going to screw the title up, but it was something about self-deception. It was like
Leadership and Self-Deception
by the
Self-Deception
Arminger
Institute.
Yeah.
I just had to say it because
I was like, what? Do you have the author, the title, copyright year 1990?
Give me this.
Okay.
Just give me this.
You got it. It's on his nightstand right now. and I don't even remember what the book is about specifically. I remember the gist of the book, but the title always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Because just the concept of self-deception, I think, is so strong in our society or with people. Is part of being aware is also not self-deceiving. And that's where I would end on that, is to say, yes, you need to be aware and step back from your situation and pull things away from you enough to remove emotion and this and that, to where you can reflect and have awareness of your life and your vision. But a part of that ability to do that is not deceiving or self-deceiving yourself all the time, to be like, oh, it's okay, or it's going to be all right. Or it's like, no, like these are, when you hear yourself saying, oh, it's all right, like that's a cue of like, maybe it's not going to be all right. Maybe you're just,
I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
And I see, again, if I'm just like picking on these imaginary agents that don't exist at all, I see a lot of self-deception, right? I see a lot of people thinking that the things that matter don't matter, and telling themselves a story that they're doing better than they are, and telling themselves a story that they're more ready than they are, or that they're, they're creating their own problems, right? And again, I've been there, I've done it. But I've also, as the seasons go on, you become more in tune with like, hey, that self-deception thing is real, and you need to put stops in place to make sure that you're not self-deceiving, and that you're, from time to time, have like a system around that.
It's very expensive in all areas.
One of the biggest ways to take care of it is get married.
Oh, yeah. This is like, I'm awesome.
My wife's awesome.
I need some
Call me
work.
right out. No, that's not what you said. No, I'm pretty sure that's what I said. No, she's great. But yeah, I think what I'm getting at, those good relationships of people around you that care about you, who will grab you and be like, hey, I know, I see that twinkle in your eye, but I know what you're about to do. And I'm just going to tell you as a friend or a loved one that like, you need to check yourself. Like, you're starting to get out of your skis. You're getting a little bit, and that's how I've done it, I guess, is what I'm alluding to. And so for me, a big aspect of my success has been developing relationships with people around me who will keep me held accountable, because I'm not the most accountable person.
Sure.
And I'm not the most accountable person to myself.
Oh my gosh.
And
welcome
so,
to all of us.
Well, it's easier if I say I than them. None of you are.
It's like, you're not a,
But yeah, I mean, that's the secret sauce. And we talked a few times about it, and I've worked out almost my whole life. Like, I love to go to the gym, and that's great. I also can tell you that COVID was one of the hardest times for me ever, because ever since I started working out, which was like junior high, high school, this and that, I've always had a peer group. It was always the football team or the wrestling team. And even after that, it was my buddy Paul, or it was I would meet a buddy at the gym or do it. And so I'm the same way. Like, I have a personal trainer with small group training to this day, because I know I won't, even though I love to do it and I know all the benefits of it, if I stop paying that person, if I stop, my workouts will go downhill. Like, I had all the stuff at COVID. It was all in my basement, man. I had like a gym and some weights. Like, I worked out 5 times during COVID, right? It was light duty, right? I worked out, and 4 of them were in a row, like when lockdown happened. And then, like, I got a 5th one. But I just have known that about myself. Like, I'm the kind of guy who, whether it's other people get me excited or they hold me, but I need that, so then I do that, and then the problem solved. Problem solved. Yeah. You can solve your problem if you pay the price of that ticket, and it's just called pure accountability around that thing. Yeah. And then what other areas of your life? And so, is it prospecting? Is it lead generation? Like, what? And then find the peer group to hold you accountable. Because if you're a self-starter, great. I am not in so many facets of my life, and so I've found those people to hold me accountable.
I love it. I think Jordan Peterson says something to the effect of, you can't ever mature enough across all of the areas of your life to make up for having people around you that are interdependent with you to hold you up in all those different areas. And if you think about it, like, there's just no one person other than Jesus who's ever lived that actually fits that mold. The rest of us, like, I know when my alarm goes off in the morning, I have you and another buddy and my son, who I'm accountable to, who's going to razz me and not leave me alone. Right. And that's amazing.
Yeah, and it's effective too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the biggest thing I pull from it, and is it's effective. For me, it's effective. And I think we started this analogy with like me getting out over my skis, or people seeing that twinkle in your eye. And it's been another one of the reasons I feel like I can be so risk adverse, or I can charge into fear, is because I also know I have people that will pull me back or tap me on the shoulder and be like, yo, dude, nope.
Yeah.
It was funny right up to here. Okay?
Now it's like, well,
that's not funny.
Yeah. I love it. Well, man, Keith, thank you for taking the time to.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
It's like being with, I'll add another thing to the list, the philosopher, of course.
Yeah.
So, no, thanks for sharing. Thanks for just dropping value to all the agents that are watching, and we'll do it again. Okay, guys, that wraps up part 2 of our interview with Keith Riddle. So thankful you had the chance to come along this ride with Keith and I. And as always, we're here to impact, empower, and encourage you in your real estate career. My heart and Jake's heart is that you guys take this information and you put it to work. If there's something that Keith said, or you go to our website, rmgagentpodcast.com, and you find anything that's good there, we want you to put it to use, because we want it to work for you and work in your business.
Yep, and check out next week. We're going to have another Master Series episode. We're not going to tell you who it is, so you're going to have to check out to see who it is.
I promise it's going to be good.